what do we have here?
Maruchan is a nation of ramen lovers. Deliciously different, but united by great taste.
All
From
I can think
suburban
of
foodies
is Missouri
to
State
mountaintop
Chase Bank,
noodlers,
right?
Maruchan has a million ways to make us smile.
Sure. So
Ow.
I actually bought a little more this morning on the news, but
take on the
I've
Fed
been
every
very
time you do
clear.
something like
Last
healthcare.
week
It's in
when
their sector.
Brendan talked to and I
You
were
might
talking
be a
about it,
Quantrino
I
accident
tweeted
or
out that
something
that was
at the
the
negative
first
numbers
day
down to Kelvin,
that I wasn't
telling
hedged in many,
the pressure
many
gauges,
months.
but
I've said repeatedly on air.
inside of it, if
and
Moderna
it's
and
in my
healthcare
disclosures that I've been
are
selling
synonymous, you would
calls
expect
aggressively and
Moderna's
buying
health
puts.
insurance to a
And
program of a
so
mill,
that's
like
what you
person
do
with a
with
kid, the
biotech
entire
stocks
Jacobian
that
matrix
are
that goes with the
event-driven.
Olive 1, Olive
During
0,
lulls,
Price Sector,
it's
Sophie
open season
Star,
for the shorts, and it
O-Type,
gets heavily shorted
Black
by hedge
Hole,
funds who,
Supermassive,
you know,
Irregular
push
Massive,
whatever story they want to push.
Benzro
But
Zero,
right now,
Space or
and
Photon,
since
or
Brendan and I discussed it last
gravity
week,
wave radio
I have
signal
no protection on
lensings,
it, so I'm straight long.
feeds
The fundamentals
on
have
the
not
round
changed. If
corruption.
anything, the fundamentals have gotten a lot better. It's not just Moderna. Biotech was the worst performing index last
Give me
year,
a
I believe.
kid, just
BioNTech was down a similar
go get
amount.
me a S&P
Novavax
review,
was down
S&P
more.
review,
Pick one.
real quick.
Some have
Just
completely
come back
blown
with
up.
what you could either
That's
get
what
in a
happens
day,
in biotech,
or
which
what
is
you
why
think
you
the
have to
review
hedge your
for the data
position,
review is
and that's
going to
what I
turn
did.
into,
But
or
the pipeline's
what
grown
that
over
long
last
pipeline
year
is
from
going.
23 to over 40.
Bears, Bull,
They hit
it's
15 billion
Eagle,
cash. They've
Owl,
already sold,
Night Vision, X-ray
book.
Vision,
Although it doesn't show up
Ultra
until they
Raptor,
deliver,
kind of
18.5
crazy.
billion in vaccines for 2022 with options that governments and institutions have taken.
Again, for me,
another
you know,
$3.5
you're not.
billion.
When
So
Warren
this is so much more
Buffett
than a
said to the
COVID
idea,
company,
you know,
as I
if you
continue
can
to
get your
say,
private
but like
system and
any
run
other
into
stock,
that, but at the
they're
federal
event-driven.
level, with them
Some
not
decline
being at the
in
gap
between
or
earnings,
actually
some
posing to
decline
that, with
between
them not
results
being
and
at the
trials.
table with
So my
Microsoft,
fundamental
Ford,
view hasn't changed. I
and
recommend that's
whoever
what
else they
everybody
got at the
does,
table
as I
would indicate
said
those vector
repeatedly. So
positions
that's my
inside
fault
of it.
right
It's
there.
usually
Okay,
going to be a competitive index against the T10.
Good stuff. I really appreciate you going into so much
Everything.
detail.
Because
For us and
why
our
was other
viewers,
governments putting
Steve
into
Weiss.
it, or
Okay.
private
Liz Young,
indicated
that
to the
plays into a
sector to
biotech
adjust Fed? Well,
conversation.
again, it's going to go
Whether we
back
should
to
be
what you
bullish
think
or
is a
not,
problem
Space,
that's
as
not
Adam
actually a
Parker told us
problem.
before
It
the
already
break.
exists in
Yeah,
terms
we
of
should
zero
be.
one and training soldiers and a
Albeit there
white
may be
picket
some risk in
fence
certain stocks. What do you
about
think?
Ted's three-quarter horse out there
Well, let's
in
take
demonstration.
healthcare as a sector as a whole,
That's
trading about middle of the pack
where it's going to
performance-wise
be. As soon as you put
year
a
to
name
date.
to it, Uber,
I think
its
healthcare is
scale
a
or
great place to
profile,
hide
it's
out
going to
during
set to
rate
what you can
volatility.
metrics next
And
to,
then you break it
and
down
what
even further,
breaks
look
down
at things
into
like
their
biotech and
macro
pharma,
from
and
there.
know that they're a
Time
little bit more
dilations
growthy in the healthcare sector,
work
so they're going
like
to see more
any
volatility
kind of
as we have
system
rate
to
news.
integrate their
But then you've got
cycle on the
healthcare
wave
equipment
function.
and
But actually,
services
we've got
that
going
kind
on
of balances that
11
out.
year solar
I think
cycles,
healthcare is a
cicada
great place to
rabbits,
be here,
wolf
and I think it's a great
population
place
in
to
there,
be for the
just
long
the
term. I
3D
used it as my
engine,
final
what
trade
pumps
last time I
out
was on.
to what a graphic calculator used to be able to do. Or, well, what comparatively the new indexes are. So, again, that was only 2 minutes perfect, because I want to double a couple of these up real quick. This one, or I had one from Meta this morning that I was leaving hanging. I got most of them inside of here. I tried to run them. Anything I leave behind. Where was it? Was it today? I had a lot in there today. Well, I had one for Meta, but this will have to do because we'll get back into that here in a minute. And why all that Russian cyber hack is even a thing, because I've been talking about just roll into Ukraine. Go ahead, roll in there with the thing, mess up the road. You're going to fix it when you
Never
don't
settle
expect the
with Power
Ukrainian people to
E-Trade.
fix
It has
it when they
easy
were
to use
running a
tools and
regular
some of the
system and
lowest
trying to get
prices.
regular shit rolling and
Get E-Trade
Starbucks.
and start
That you
trading
just blew
today.
up all the chains for.
I don't think so. I just think
I
as
don't
the
think-
companies become bigger and the end markets become just a little bit more mature, it's just harder to get that incremental subs. One of the positives about Netflix in the last print was that its most mature market, the U.S., arguably the most
Figure it out.
competitive
We'll make a
streaming
movie
market,
about you.
didn't see a dramatic
Walt
slowdown.
Disney will
The
put
issue was
money
really in
on
other parts of the world. So
5G
there's no question you've got
signals.
to spend a lot of money to stay in this business, and Netflix has to
Oh,
spend at least $18
Viacom's
billion a year,
are-
which they're doing. The business model allows it.
Well, you
But,
might
they're
set a
gonna have to
name like
keep
it
growing
owns
There's
a
no margin, easy margin
post
relief
around
out
here
of
or
this.
something.
If you're competing in streaming, you got to spend top dollar, and you've got to be willing to spend at least $10 billion a year, or else you're not going to be a player.
Like,
Even for Comcast,
the
Joe, their
reality
parent
on the
company, there are investors who want
F-35
to
or
see
space station
NBCU
about
separate from
NASA's
Comcast
bad
so
time and
that they can
Space Force
spend
not giving it
billions
up
and
and Biden's
billions
at
and billions on Peacock, which
Ugh.
Comcast investors don't want. They're here for other reasons. But remember, Kelly, that Peacock is really playing a different game here than Netflix is. Netflix is about subscriber dollars. Peacock is about advertising dollars. And because Peacock also has a live component and it has news and is going to have the Olympics coming up,
with it, but they
having
catch
news and sports is a
competition
different
from
sort of a different
CNN.
equation,
I mean,
and it keeps
it
people
really
coming
makes a
back in a
big
different cadence. I think there's something
warp
fascinating. I mean, just
or
looking at the
maelstrom down
NFL
there
ratings
that
and
a
this
lot of
idea
people
that you
not
know
paying
if you
attention to wave
invest in
function.
live sports, you're going
Just
to
like
have
math class,
your
just
subscribers
like
or
going
your
outside and
viewers
catching
come
a
back
rabbit.
at a regular cadence. The
Paying
pressure for
attention to
something like
things.
services like Netflix is to make sure that they're investing in
So
the
again,
type of original content
in a
that
CM
can
machine,
make people
machine
feel
you
like
bet
it's
on
worth continuing to
any
subscribe,
level of your first
even if
job
they've just
operator, where you
burned
had a
through
manager, didn't
season
have a
of show.
manager,
Right, and
every
Mark, when we
single
spoke to
subset
Laura
of those
Martin
things.
not
What do you
long
look
ago
for?
over at
The rabbit,
Needham,
right?
she said it was a mistake
Whatever
for
the
Netflix
shiny is in
not
one
to own
prime,
sports. I mean, if you
yes.
think about it, as
And as tight
these
as you
channels
can.
proliferate,
Well,
it's easier
you
to
know
be
it
the
would be
tentpole
inverted or in
home of a
superposition
sports
while you're working
franchise
it
that's
out.
going to
So
be
it's somebody
back year
watching
after
you
year after year,
for the
isn't it?
compressed over the long comparatively
Yeah,
to short.
this is a tough one, and I wonder about what the next growth curve
And
initiative
so
for
streaming
Netflix is gonna
platforms
be.
or anything
And,
that's
I
kind
know
of built
people like
off
Lord
that. I
Martin,
built before
very
blasphemy off of
thoughtfully
that. That's not
suggesting
just
that they get
literature.
into sports.
It's
The problem with sports is
analytics.
that it's not
It's
on demand. You
topology,
watch
World of
sports when
Warcraft
the
design.
athletes
If
and
you
the
wanted to do the
organizations want
3D
to play.
engine or World of
Whereas
Warcraft
Netflix is
variable,
all over, over
take it
years,
to
so
that
you
level,
watch,
the analytical necessaries of that thing that they did, when you break it down.
You can watch,
Inside the rotation of the box, the rotation of the box, it's all ones and zeros based on whether it's God program, the devil program,
opportunity here for Netflix, and
for
this
this,
is changing
it's
my
all
thinking
ones and
too. It's
zeros,
not in the US, but
and it has a
overseas,
limit of that
they're
character
gonna have to
card
start
under that
introducing
frame.
it. They really have
And if it
started to
decided to do
mature out
anything
their paid
different, we got
subscriber base.
scientists
They're
going to
gonna
track
need
that son of a
introduce
bitch
an
down
ad-supported model.
5
That's gonna take
sigma.
them a couple- That's what I'm watching for.
That's been her big call as well, saying they have to do that, Julia. I mean, does it make sense at some point? Because there's not every household can afford $15
You make God
a
particles
month
out of a
for
stone mill
Netflix.
by
For a
5
lot, they say,
sigma.
I would happily pay 4 or 5 and watch ads.
I
But
can't,
look, and that's what's
whether
so
I
interesting
have
now
or
is
I
we just saw
haven't given the
Netflix raise
housing.
prices
It's a
in the
great
U.S., but
question.
they actually lowered prices in India because they've been struggling to compete there, where prices for
Get the
rival
name of the
services
movie,
are relatively
yeah.
lower. But one of the bullish analyst notes that came out
They
today
got 41.
said that they believe that, or I believe it was
5,000
late last week, was that
There's a
they
few
believe that
hours
Netflix
off.
did have pricing power and could,
From the off.
continue to raise prices as they continue to invest in content.
So
But I
you
think
can't
what
play
we
the
have to
immediate
see,
plays
Kelly,
like they're
as
going to
this
play it,
year advances,
obviously.
how
They're
many
already camped up
subscription
in it
services people
and
are going to want to
talking
pay for.
about the
If
adjusted play,
Netflix is
who's
going
can
to be
technology
the
can
go-to
shadow
subscription service
frame
and
rate
people
inside
feel
of
like
that
it's going to be
system,
worth
whether it's a
paying
graphic
$20
calculator,
a
a
month at
fan
the
on the
high
gaming
end,
computer,
which are
rehoused
the other
in
ones that
AO
may
to do the
get
Dungeons
lost
and
in the
Dragons
shuffle and
into the
people might be
financial
more
asset manager.
willing to cut the cord with?
Mark, what would your parting advice for investors be as this all shakes out?
Well, on Netflix, I'm kind of in the middle now. I've after about a decade of having a buy on the
There's
stock.
a wave function to Winnie the Pooh, honestly. What's we Peyton really close to today without giving up Gypsy
My
Yeager's
guess is that we're no longer
stronghold,
flipping
right?
along at 25 million subs. This was a wonderful stock. His sub ads
I'm playing
accelerated
Pink
throughout
Kong
last
and
decade. Best
Godzilla
performing
today, that
S&P
was
500 stock last decade. This decade, my guess now is that we're going to have decelerating sub ads every year. The number of new subs is going to be declining. I think that makes it much harder for the stock to outperform. It becomes much more of a tactical rather than a core long. So I'm steering clear of Netflix for now, and I look at other assets. I like assets like Spotify, for example.
Are we marshmallows today, or is that
Facebook,
Kong
Amazon.
carcass or marshmallow
Spotify.
carcass?
I won't dwell there. We'll have that discussion another time. Guys, thank you both very much today. Mark Mahaney and Julia Boorstin talking on streaming.
Fight.